So we will just get right into it because we have a lot to get through. And I think I overdid it a little bit because I just get so excited and I just want to show you everything in my arsenal. So we're going to make the creamiest chocolate peppermint truffles. Now you can, this is just a really good base truffle recipe. You don't have to flavor them with peppermint. You can do any kind of flavoring. So I'm going to talk about different options for you. So if you don't like peppermint chocolate, don't worry. You will be able to do another flavor. And I'm just going to let you all know I am a little under the weather, so my voice is going a little bit. So I'm going to try my best to keep my voice nice and clear for you, but I have some water on hand with me. Yeah, just like winter, hey? It's crazy. Everybody's sick right now. So yeah, thank you so much again, everybody, for joining. So we're going to first we're going to start off with the candied cacao nibs. And then we're going to do the coconut snow because these are our 2 truffle coatings that we're going to need to coat the truffles in. Now this is going to be really fun because these truffle coatings, the candied cacao nibs, I feel like I've shown this a lot already, but it's an amazing recipe and so versatile. So I really wanted to use it for the truffles. And trust me, when you try the truffles with the candied cacao nibs, you'll be like, this is the best thing I've ever eaten. Seriously, I'm not kidding. So good. And then we're going to do the coconut snow, which is a really fun recipe. You do need a dehydrator, so obviously that is optional. If you don't have a dehydrator, you can just blitz up some coconut and use that. But this is a really fun method to do to sweeten up the coconut a little bit. And we're going to be using dehydrated coconut pulp from making coconut milk, because I always like to use my pulps when I'm making nut milks. We're going to be making coconut milk for the base of the truffles. So then we're going to utilize the coconut pulp as one of the coatings. So it's perfect. We're going to have no waste there. And then we're going to make the creamy chocolate truffle filling. And then I'm going to show you how to roll them, and then we're going to coat them in chocolate and in our fun coatings. So like I said, I just pinned a comment there that the recipe download, if you want to follow along, is the very first link in the link in bio. So you can just go there. You can download the PDF recipe. It's a PDF recipe for you so that you can print it out and you can have it on hand and follow along. So we're just going to get right into it. I am going to try my best to answer questions throughout the demo. There are going to be some breaks, so I'm going to try my best to get to those questions for you. If I don't get to your question, please send me a DM. I mean, I'm always available to help, or send me an email. Or send me a DM on Instagram here, which might be the easiest if you have a question for me and I didn't get to your question if I didn't see it there. Okay, so first we're going to make the candied cacao nibs. This is a really fun recipe that I feel like I'm using in so many different things right now, but like I said, it's really versatile and it's a lot of fun. It's basically my healthy version of chocolate chips. So if you have the recipe out in front of you, you'll see that I have some cacao paste, cacao butter, and then just a few ingredients. So I like to melt my chocolate down in a stainless steel bowl like this on top of another bowl with hot water. So I just take hot water from a kettle, boiling water, and I put hot water in the bowl and I put a stainless steel bowl on top with the chopped cacao butter and cacao paste. Now make sure that the cacao butter and the cacao paste is chopped. And I'll show you what cacao paste looks like if you don't know, because we're going to be melting down more chocolate. You're going to see me going back and forth with the kettle because we're going to be using chocolate in 3 recipes. So this is what cacao paste looks like. It's just the pressed down cacao nib, basically. It has the actual cacao components as well as the cacao butter, the fat. So I love to use this. I've always used cacao paste to make my chocolate since I started making raw chocolate because it ends up in a much smoother result. When you use cacao powder, it's really grainy, so you have to blend it in something or sift it. So this is so much easier. You just have to melt down the butter in the paste and add in your sweetener and flavorings, and then it's ready to use. Really, really simple. And it produces a nice thick consistency, which is great for enrobing. So that's what paste looks like. So then you want to just melt them down like this. I always tell the students, and I know there's lots of students here, so thanks for joining, everybody. They know that I always say, please don't melt your chocolate in the microwave or on the stove, because you're more than likely going to burn it. And once it's burned, you have to discard it. There's no bringing it back. It's going to taste burnt. It's going to be gross. It's going to seize, and it's going to not be the best. So someone's asking, what's the difference taste-wise? There's no, to me, I've never experienced a difference in taste-wise. You're using the same components of the cacao bean. They're just processed in different ways. So there should be no change in flavor. My chocolate formula is dark because I like dark chocolate. So I'm using a ratio of 3:1. I'm using a ratio of 3 parts paste to 1 part butter. So if you don't like really dark chocolate, then you can decrease that ratio, and you could do like a 1:1 of butter and paste, or use 2:1 of paste and butter, whatever is going to work best for you. I prefer dark chocolate, so this is how I like to use it. So this has been all melted down. So we're making, for those of you who are just joining, we're making the candied cacao nibs. We got to make this first, because we got to get it in the fridge to set so that we can use it for our coating. Now, what you want to do when you're making the candied cacao nibs is you want to remove this from the heat and let it cool down a bit before we add in our cacao nibs. So this is basically just chocolate covered cacao nibs. So I have cacao nibs here. And the reason why you want to wait for it to cool down a bit is because you don't want the cacao nibs to melt. Yes, I just let the kettle, someone's asking if the water has to be boiling. It's boiling before I put it in the bowl. That is correct. So you just want to let the chocolate cool down a bit before you add in the cacao nibs. And you can always just put it in another bowl, which I think I might do. Because this way it will also cool down quicker if we transfer it to another bowl, because stainless steel, and this is why I like to use stainless steel, because it conducts heat really good, right? So it melts down quicker than if you were to use a glass bowl. So then if we add it into a glass bowl that has no heat, it's going to cool down much quicker. So I'm going to add in my liquid sweetener. I just have a couple tablespoons or a tablespoon of liquid sweetener here. You can use any liquid sweetener, coconut nectar, agave, maple syrup, whatever you prefer. And then I have some vanilla. I'm using the medicine flower vanilla extract, but you can use any vanilla that you have on hand at home. This is the vanilla that I prefer and I like to use, but if you have vanilla powder is inexpensive again, thank goodness, because it was really expensive for a long time. So I'm just mixing that together. I'm basically just making chocolate before I add in the cacao nibs and the coconut sugar. Now, the reason why I'm adding in coconut sugar is to add a bit more sweetener, but also it's going to add a really nice texture. So I like to put this in the candied cacao nibs. It adds a really nice texture to the end result. And you can see it starting to set there already. So I want to get it out of the bowl really quick. And I just have a flat container with some parchment paper in here. And I'm just going to put the cacao nib mixture in the container. And I'm going to flatten it out a little bit. And this is a good way to make your own raw chocolate at home as well. You can make some chocolate bark this way. You can have a lot of fun and come up with different flavors. So there we have our candied cacao nib mixture. So So that's what it looks like before I put it in the fridge. So I'm going to put a lid on this and I'm going to get it in the fridge because we need this ready by the time we want to use them for our coating. Oh, actually, this lid is pretty broken. Okay, see, that was really simple, right? Really simple procedure. And like I said, you can use that recipe for so many things. You can add it into chocolates, add it into cookies as healthy chocolate chips, and we're going to use it as a coating on the truffles. Now, I saw a question come through. Oh yeah, don't worry. This is going to be posted on my timeline, so you are going to get, you will get, you can watch this after. You can watch it back. No worries there. Okay, so now we're going to get started on the coconut snow. This recipe is really fun. So the first thing we have to do is make coconut milk. And I'm sure a lot of you these days, so many people already know how to make their own nut milks or coconut milk at home, but I'm going to show you just in case you don't know. Because it's really easy. It's going to take us 2 minutes. And this is why everybody should be making their own plant-based milk at home. It's really simple, doesn't take any time at all. So we're going to make the coconut milk because, like I said at the beginning of class, we're going to utilize the pulp to make the coconut snow. And we're going to be using medium shred coconut for the coconut milk. We're making coconut cream, sorry. So if you see in the recipe download, you'll see the recipe there for the coconut cream. And then we're going to add in just 1.5 cups of filtered water because we want this to be nice and thick for our truffle filling. So that was really easy. So now we're just going to strain it through a nut milk bag. And I always blend my nut milks or coconut milk for about 30 seconds. That seems to be the best timing for the blending if you're blending it in a high-speed blender such as a Vitamix. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to strain the coconut cream through a nut milk bag like this. You just want to squeeze out all of that coconut cream. Now, if you're making this for, like say, drinking or for cereal, you can add in some sweetener or some sunflower lecithin powder, which will act as an emulsifier, and it's going to thicken up the cream even more. Or if you're making nut milk, do the same thing. But because we're going to be using the pulp in a recipe, I didn't want to add in the sunflower lecithin, but you could add it in after if you wanted. All right, so now I know that I need 1/3 cup of the coconut cream for the truffle filling. So I'm just going to save 1/3 cup and I'm going to put that aside for when we need it for the filling, and then I'm going to put the rest in a container. And and I'll put the rest in the fridge there. Now, we're going to make the coconut snow. This is really fun, and if you are in any of my programs, you'll know that I love using, like I said, nut pulps or coconut pulp for even pastries and many different things, because the coconut pulp is really light and fluffy. So as you'll see, this is the coconut pulp. After you've made the coconut milk, it looks so good, hey? So we can use this. I use this in cookies. If you have the Art of Raw Desserts cookbook, you'll see there is some shortbread lemon poppy seed cookies. I use coconut pulp in the base there. You can use it in cake bases, so many different things. I love using the pulps for that reason. Now, in the coconut snow, we're going to add some powdered erythritol. So I'm just using some powdered Lakanto, and sorry, I know it's backwards because I have the camera flipped, but this is powdered Lakanto. So I just buy this in the baking section at the store, and we're just going to add a couple tablespoons. Now, if you're using xylitol or anything like that, you do want it to be powdered so that it's going to incorporate in the recipe a lot easier. And then we're just going to mix it in. And it's going to mix in really nice because there's some moisture left in the coconut pulp from making the coconut milk. And then this is why we have to dehydrate it. Going to get out those clumps there. So that's all you had to do. So simple, 2 ingredients. How fun is that? So now I'm going to put this onto a dehydrator tray. And I have a dehydrator tray here. You want to make sure that it's lined so that the coconut doesn't fall through the mesh tray there. So I'm just going to add this on to my liner, and then we're going to dehydrate this at 115 Fahrenheit. I like to just do everything overnight, or you can do it like 8 to 10 hours until it's dry, basically. And you don't need to transfer this onto the mesh. You can just keep it on the liner and it's going to dehydrate fully because it's really light and fluffy. So the air is going to move through underneath as well. Perfect. See, that was so simple. Really simple and fun. It's a really fun garnish. And then from there, you also could add different superfood colorings. If you wanted to color it a different color, you can use like beet powder to make it pink. You can use any of the green superfood powders to make it green. Because we're making peppermint truffles, it would be really fun to color it green. And for Christmas, you could even split the batch and do pink and green. So you can get really fun and creative with that in the kitchen. Okay, so we have our coatings. I've shown you how to do the coatings. When we get to the coating and rolling process, I'm going to show you what the coconut snow looks like, and we're going to process it down in the blender because I wanted to show you that step. So now we are ready to make the truffle filling. I'm just going to grab... I'm going to start some more water actually because I need to melt down some cacao butter for that. And I'm just going to get my ingredients for the truffle filling. And so we're going to use the blender. We'll use the blender for the truffle filling. And so I'll try to get to questions here. Yeah, it's monk fruit powder. So someone is asking if the sweetener I used was monk fruit powder. Yes, I don't like to call it monk fruit powder though, because it's not. It has like maybe 2% monk fruit in there. It's actually erythritol. Lakanto is your erythritol with a little bit of monk fruit added. And the reason why they do that is because erythritol is only about 80% sweet as sugar. So they wanted to make it a 1-to-1 replacement. So adding in the monk fruit is going to boost it up to 100% 1-to-1 replacement. Where, for example, xylitol is 100% sweet as sugar. So xylitol is a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar, if you want a low glycemic alternative. So all the sugar alcohols, erythritol, Lakanto, xylitol, all of those are really low glycemic sweeteners. So they're really good for people who have issues with spiking their blood sugar. So let me just see if I'm missing any comments or questions here. Okay, it doesn't look like it, but like I said at the beginning, if I'm missing any questions, please just send me a DM. I'm always happy to help. So we are going to make the truffle filling. Now, if you're in the raw dessert program, you'll know that there is a few different truffle filling recipes that we do, and some are a little bit more advanced than others. This is by far, I think, the easiest truffle formula that I've come up with. So it's simple, but it's also really extra creamy, kind of resembles a milk chocolate truffle filling instead of a really dark chocolate. So just keep that in mind on what the differences are. So this is going to be really easy for you to use. So I'm just going to melt down the butter here. And it will melt down pretty quick. So for the truffle filling, we have just a few simple ingredients. I just want to make sure I have everything here. So we're going to be using cacao powder. So in this recipe, we're going to be using the powder because we're going to be adding it into the blender. So we're going to be blending it. So here in this instance, then I don't mind using the powder. And then we're adding in some coconut nectar. So like I said, you can use any liquid sweetener you want. And then we're going to be adding in some nut butter. So now in the recipe to make it nut-free, I've used tahini, but I didn't have any tahini on hand, so I'm just using some raw stone ground sprouted almond butter. But you can use any nut or seed butter in this recipe. It's going to work nice. It also adds a nice extra creaminess as well. And then we're going to be adding in the coconut cream that we just made. And a little bit of salt, and then some peppermint essential oil to flavor it. And then, of course, our cacao butter, which is melting down here. So I'm doing the same method, the bowl over bowl method, and I'm just melting down the butter. And it's melting down nice and quick. And then we have coconut oil. I have to melt that down. And sorry, I'm using the microwave because I don't have any more bowls, stainless steel bowls. So I'm melting it down in there just for a few seconds. So we're adding in a mixture of coconut oil and cacao butter, because even though they're both setting agents, but if you look at coconut oil, it's much softer at room temperature, right? So it's going to produce a much softer result as opposed to cacao butter. Where cacao butter is a much stronger setting agent. So I don't want to use all cacao butter because otherwise my truffles are going to be way too firm. But we're using cacao butter because we want that cacao flavor. So I'm adding in a mix of butter and oil, which to me seems to be the best formula and will give me the best result. We're going to have some nice creamy soft truffles. And we're going to be using 3/4 cup of melted coconut oil. So if you're just joining, I just want to remind you all that the recipe download is the first link in the link in my bio. You can download the full PDF recipe there if you didn't see that. Perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all of the ingredients into the blender except for the coconut cream, because we want to get all of that blended down first before we add the cream. And I'm going to show you why. So we're going to add in the cacao powder first. I always like to add in the powders first so that when I turn on the blender, it's not going to go everywhere and it's going to stay contained. And then we have our coconut nectar, which is my favorite sweetener. So again, if you're in my programs, you all know how much I'm obsessed with coconut nectar. It's a really healthy sweetener. It's low glycemic, still has a lot of minerals. And I can buy it in bulk here from Real Raw Food, which is why I love it as well, because it's more inexpensive. Maple syrup is very expensive here, like the good organic high grade maple syrup, which is why I don't use it mostly. I'm adding in just a tiny bit of salt just to flavor balance. And then I have my raw sprouted almond butter here, but like I said, you can use any nut or seed butter. Tahini works really nice in this recipe as well, and will also make it nut free. Want to get that all in there. And then we have our cacao butter. So that melted down really quick, see? And that is because, too, remember I chopped down the cacao butter into small pieces so that it melts down quickly. And then I'm going to add in the coconut oil. Just want to make sure I got that right. Yes. Dealing with a lot of ingredients today. Okay. I'm just going to clear this away. Now we're going to add in our flavorings. So like I said at the beginning of class, this is a really good base recipe for you to use for any flavoring that you want. You can make it orange, you can use orange essential oil. I'm going to be using a peppermint essential oil, which is the doTERRA brand, because this is a good organic food grade essential oil. And I'm only adding in 6 drops. Now trust me, a little goes a long way. Peppermint essential oil is really strong. You don't want to add more than 6 drops. If you do add a couple more drops, don't fret, because sometimes they come out really quick. It's okay, but try to keep it at 6 drops because it is quite strong. So we're going to blend this up before we add in the coconut cream. So I'm just going to scrape down the sides because you'll see that there was some cacao powder that got in between the blades here. So I just want to make sure I'm getting everything. So I'm just going to blend that down again. So it's quite thick at this point, and if you keep blending it, you'll notice that I don't know if you can see it here, probably not, the cacao butter and coconut oil starts to separate. So we're going to fix that. So if you see that happening in your blender, then don't worry. It's really easy to fix. And this is why we're going to add in the coconut cream, because this is basically going to act as our emulsifier. So what I like to do is I like to just put this on low. And I'm just going to add it in slowly while it's blending on low there. Okay, that didn't go as smooth as I had hoped, but no worries. I'm just going to incorporate it like this and then blend it in. Because sometimes the Vitamix, you know, does that air bubble thing. You got to just sometimes help it a little bit. I don't like to use my tamper. I try to use my tamper as the last resort because it always gets so much filling on here and then it's hard to clean off. And I always like to use as much of the filling as I can out of the blender. Okay, that's good. We don't need to blend it anymore because it's incorporating, but we don't want to over blend it as well. Oh, this looks so good. The smell. Oh, I wish that you could smell this. So I'm just going to stir it in a little bit. Oh, I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. It looks amazing. So yummy. So thick and creamy, rich and luscious. So this is what it looks like after it's done blending and emulsifying. It smells amazing. So we're going to add this into a container. So I just have another flat container that I'm using, and I like to use the flat containers so that it sets more evenly in the container. I just find it always works best. So I'm just going to add this in, and you can see how nice and creamy that looks. Here, I'll give you guys a closer view. And this is a lot of truffle filling because this makes about 30 truffles. So feel free to half batch this if you want. If you're using a wide base Vitamix, then do not half batch this, because if you're using the wide base jugs on your Vitamix, then you need this amount in order for it to blend properly. And a lot of the students, you don't always have to use a high-speed blender for this. A lot of the students actually use an immersion blender, like a hand blender. So if you have that at home, you can use that as well. And your food processor will even work as well. Just make sure that you're processing it enough for the cacao powder to remove all of the grain from the powder. This looks delicious. Of course, I have some already made though for you because we're not going to wait for this to set. This will take at least about 6 hours to set in the fridge before it's ready to roll. And actually, I'm just going to take the truffle filling out of the fridge. So we are going to set this in the fridge for about 6 hours, or I just do this overnight. So when I know I want to make truffles, I just do this at nighttime before I go to bed. I put them in the fridge, and then the next day they're all ready to roll. So I'm just going to set this aside. And actually now is a good time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know if I haven't answered them already or if I missed them. Anyone have any questions? No? We're all good? Awesome. Yay, see, it's really simple, hey? So now we're gonna get to the fun part. We're gonna roll the truffles and then we're gonna cover them in chocolate and use our lovely coatings that we had made. So I'm gonna show you the rest of the process for that. Let me just get a little cleaned up here for you. And clear my area. So now what I did was I made some truffle filling the other day and I wanted some to be all ready for you. So what I did was I rolled half of the batch yesterday because once we roll these into truffles, then we need to put them in the freezer so that they're cold enough before we cover them in chocolate. So I already have some in the freezer for you that are already cold enough. And this is what the truffle filling looks like when it's done. So you can see it looks nice and firm. So I'm going to show you from this half here how to roll them, what my method is. And then we just need a little container to put the truffles in because then we're going to put this into the freezer before we, like I said, enrobe them. So in the meantime, I'm just going to turn on the water again because I'm going to have to melt down some more chocolate. So I will just get that going. Okay, so when I roll truffles, you can use a little spoon or you can use a melon baller. This is a really fun tool to use for rolling truffles because it's going to start the rolling process for us. And I like to use the larger end of the melon baller. I'm going to be using disposable gloves because the heat from your hands is going to start melting the truffle filling really quickly. You can use your hands. It's just going to be a much easier process if you use disposable gloves. So let me just melt this chocolate down here. I'm melting down right now the enrobing chocolate that we're going to be using to cover the truffles in. So this is really simple. We're just going to take the large end of the melon baller and I'm just going to start scraping it along the top of the filling. And I'm just going to remove that. And then I'm just going to start rolling it in my hands like this. Really easy. And this is why I love this truffle filling. Look at how easy that was and how easy this filling is to work with. It doesn't go super soft. It is really easy to work with. We're going to get this nice round truffle. And we didn't have to use dates or anything. We're using cacao butter and coconut oil as the setting agent, and then it's going to be a nice creamy chocolate truffle. So that's what it looks like when it's done there. And I'm just going to put it into my container, and I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to do a few for you. I don't have to do a ton of them because, it's the same process every time. So once you see it a couple times, then that's all you need. So there we go. And you know, you can do if you have a lot of people at home or if you have a family with kids. This is a fun one to get the kids involved or to do an assembly line and just get a lot of people involved to help you roll the truffles. So there you go. And you can eat them just like this if you want, but I would wait because trust me, it's so much better once you've covered them and put the coatings on. Like I said, I can't wait for you all to try the truffles with the candied cacao nibs. You're going to absolutely love them. Oh my goodness, sorry you guys, my stomach is growling. I'm doing a juice cleanse with my sister. So if I eat a truffle, she's going to be very upset with me. So I can't eat any and break my juice cleanse right now. We're just doing a 3-day juice cleanse. Just started today. Why not do one before Christmas, right? Okay, so I'm just going to do one more because that's all I need to show you. Because like I said, I have some done for you already. And if anyone has any questions, let me know. And you're all looking at the recipe. You all have the recipe download there. So you can follow along. So there we go. So like I said, you just want to put these in a container once you've rolled the entire batch. And then you're going to pop them in the freezer because you want them to be nice and cold when we cover them in chocolate. I'm going to put this aside so I can finish this later. I think I have someone wanting to come pick the truffles up once I'm done. Robin, if you're watching, you still can pick up those truffles if you want once I'm done. Okay, so before we start working on the enrobing chocolate, I want to get our coatings all done. Yeah. Because this still has a little bit more to go. Just going to move this over here. So here again, I'm melting down our enrobing chocolate. This is what we're going to use to cover the truffles in. This is the same ratio as the candied cacao nib mixture, so I just have 3 parts paste to 1 part butter. And then of course we're going to be adding in our sweetener and vanilla. So I'm going to set this aside and just let it melt down a bit more there. And then I'm going to show you how to do the truffle coating. So first, I just need to switch out my equipment and grab the food processor. So you're going to want to use a food processor for both of the truffle coatings to break them down. Now, I'm going to show you what the coconut snow looks like after it's done dehydrating. So when it comes off the dehydrator tray, you'll notice that it's in large clumps like this. So this is what it looks like after it's done dehydrating. So we want to break this down into a fine crumble so that we can use it as the coating on our truffles. Now, whenever I dehydrate anything that's fully dehydrated, I like to store it in the freezer so that it stays nice and crisp. So this has been in the freezer, but you can just take it right off the dehydrator tray and put it in the food processor to break it down. But I had done this previously, so I was just storing it in the freezer. So that's what the coconut snow looks like. So we're just going to break this down into a nice crumble. So this looks good to me. Oh, actually I'm gonna need that. So I'm gonna show you what that looks like. So now this is like a fine crumble. The reason why I called it coconut snow is because it looks like snow, right? I love it. I love the texture of it. It looks beautiful. So now I'm just gonna add it into a bowl because this is what we're gonna use when we roll them. So I'm just getting this ready. And you'll notice a huge difference if you do this recipe like this with the coconut pulp, as opposed to just breaking down shredded coconut. You're going to notice a big difference in the texture. This is much lighter and fluffier, but also too because it doesn't contain a lot of the fat, because the fat gets released in the coconut cream, right, that we made. So if you were to just use the shredded coconut, it's going to be much different. So that's what that looks like. Okay, so we have this ready. I'm just going to grab my other food processor bin and check on the candied cacao nibs. So the candied cacao nibs, sorry, I'm just stirring the chocolate here. The candied cacao nibs need to be really solid before we chop them and put them in the food processor. Because if it is still soft and still setting and still has a little bit of liquid left in it, then it's going to just turn into a mush in the food processor. So we want to make sure that we do the candied cacao nibs. I would even do them the day before, set them in the fridge before you process them down when you're ready to make your truffles. So let me just grab those. I have like 3 food processor bins because when I'm making so many recipes, I don't want to have to wash one and then start a new recipe. So just like the Vitamix jugs, if you're making a lot of recipes at home or you're going to be going into this as a commercial business or starting a raw dessert business at home, having extra containers and jugs is going to save you so much time, even though you're going to have to clean them. But in a lot of cases, the jugs and the bins need to be bone dry. So it's going to be really frustrating for you if you're starting one recipe, you have to wash it and dry it and then start the next one. So it just makes it a lot easier. So if this is not set enough right now, I have some already made as a backup. So I want to show you, oh, yeah, this is good. See, you can see that it is very crispy, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna chop that down before we put it into the food processor. Now you really want to chop this down before you add it into your food processor because we're going to be helping this along. If you just add huge chunks like this, it's going to be really hard on the blade. And you know, I want my food processor to last a while, so I like to just help it whenever I can. So I'm just going to chop this down. And you can eat it just like this as a chocolate bark or if you want some snacks. But we are just going to chop this down a bit and I'm going to add it into my bin here. I feel like I've made this recipe like 20 times in the last month for so many different things. Which is good though, I love it. It's an amazing recipe. Okay. I'm gonna have lots of dishes after. Who wants to come help me? It's all good. I'm so used to it. I am like a dishwashing master, let me tell you. All right. I have my cacao nib mixture chopped, so now I'm going to process this, and I'm hoping that, like I said, it's set enough where this is going to work, so we'll see. Now you want to process this down fine enough so that it's going to actually enrobe on our truffles, because what happens is if they have too large of crumbles, they're going to overpower our truffles and it's going to look a bit funny, which is totally fine. But you know, I like to make things a little bit more elegant and more professional looking. So you want to process this down as fine as you can. And it's working wonderful. Okay, another little note though as well, you don't want to over process this because you're going to start warming it and heating it, and then it's going to start melting again. So you just got to kind of watch it and be really careful with it. So this is what this looks like when it's, I don't know if you can see properly there. You'll see it when we use it on the truffles there. Okay, we're almost done. Wow, see, this is taking no time at all. So I'm just going to start adding this into a bowl. I'm using a spoon just because I don't want to get these large chunks, so I'm just kind of choosing what I want to put in there. All right, so see, that was really simple. We have two amazing fun truffle coatings now. We have our candied cacao nibs, and then we have our coconut snow. Fun, fun. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get the truffles out of the freezer, and then we're gonna cover them in chocolate. So first, actually, we need to just finish off our enrobing chocolate. Now this is really easy. So this is basically a really good base chocolate recipe that you can make at home. Like I said in the beginning, I always use paste for my chocolate because it's nice and smooth. So this has been melted down. And then we're going to add in some coconut nectar, my liquid sweetener there. You want to add in a liquid sweetener. Don't add in a dry sweetener. A dry sweetener is going to start seizing the chocolate, so you want to make sure that it's liquid. So I'm just mixing in that liquid sweetener. And then I'm adding in vanilla because, I mean, vanilla and chocolate. You can't have chocolate without vanilla, right? So like I said before, you can use any vanilla that you have on hand at home. So I'm just mixing this all together. A little bit more sweetener in there. You'll notice when you start adding in liquid sweetener that the chocolate goes a little bit grainy. So you want to make sure that you mix it enough until that grain goes away. So we're just incorporating it. And then you want to get your area set up for enrobing. So that is what we're going to do. So you want to make a little flow for yourself. Now, I have a cutting board or a tray with a piece of parchment paper on here, because this is where we're going to put the truffles once they're done. And then I have my two coatings. I'm going to be using a chocolate dipping fork. Now, this is totally optional. You can use a dinner fork as well. So you don't have to get a fancy chocolate dipping fork, but they make your life a lot easier. They're really inexpensive on Amazon. If you want to get one, just get one. And then I have a little bowl that we're going to be using for the chocolate, because this is where we're going to dip the truffles. And you can just put this all in there, because if you've made the full batch, you're going to have 30 truffles. You'll probably actually have to double this recipe, but we'll see. Probably not. I don't think so. I can't remember off the top of my head. Okay. Perfect. So we have all of our components out in front of us that we need to make these beautiful truffles. So now I'm going to go grab the actual truffles from the freezer. So like I said, I already had some all cooled off for you. So here is the truffles that I had made yesterday. So they've been in the freezer. So now these are ready to enrobe. Now I'm going to get some more gloves for this actually. Just because this is totally optional, I just like to use disposable gloves when I'm working with chocolate. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our truffles and we're going to dip it into the chocolate. I'll give a better view there for you. Now we're going to take our chocolate dipping fork and we're just going to let that excess chocolate drip off. You do want to work quick though, because this is going to start setting really quickly. Oops, actually. So you want to get this on the chocolate truffle as quick as you can. And see, this had already started setting before I put the coating on. This looks so delicious. I wish you could all try these. I wish I could just give you a truffle through the screen here. Unfortunately, we don't have that technology yet. Hopefully one day. So there we go. There's our first coated truffle. So then I'm just going to add it onto the tray like that. And then I'm going to start on the second one. Now what I like to do is I like to work with one coating before I start on to the next one, because it just is cleaner that way. So I'll just kind of count the amount of truffles I have and how many, because I like to do half and half. I'll do 50-50, like half with the coconut snow and then half with the candied cacao nib mixture, right? I'm not going to do these all for you though, because otherwise we're going to be here a while. So there is our lovely truffle. So you can see that I'm just taking some of the cacao nib mixture and I'm coating the truffle in it there. I just find this is the easiest method for me. There we go. Now the great thing about this is that when you're all done enrobing your truffles, say you had a full batch of 30 truffles that you were making, when you're all done enrobing them, the ones that you started enrobing at the beginning are all going to be ready to eat. They're going to be thawed enough, they're going to be absolutely perfect. And the chocolate on the outside is going to be set. So you can start eating them right away. You don't have to put them in the fridge to set again. I like to eat them right away after I've enrobed them because they're really soft and creamy and just delicious. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the coconut snow. I just want to show you how to use this filling. This is starting to set already. And I'm just doing the same thing. Look at how pretty that looks. So pretty. I love this recipe. It's like a dusting of coconut. Just lovely. So I'm just going to do the same thing. Just drop that in there and start coating it. Delicious. Let's do a couple more there for you just so we have an even amount. Then I'm going to show you how creamy these are. So I'm going to cut one open for you. Just going to do one more. And this is a really meditative process. I love to enrobe chocolates and truffles and fudge. It's really relaxing. Well, some people find it relaxing. If you're just starting out, you might find it a bit stressful. But just think of it as a way to just really focus on what you're doing and use it as a good way to escape and good meditation technique. All right. Now, we have our 8 truffles that I've just made for you all. Look at how delicious those look. Don't they look good? So I'm going to show you what they look like because I hope that they're going to be thawed enough, but I cannot wait for you all to try this recipe with the candied cacao nibs on the outside. Seriously, you're going to absolutely love it. And please tell me how you like it when you try it. You just grab my knife. I want to give a good close-up for you. Delicious, so creamy, oh my goodness. Now these are still quite firm because they were in the freezer, right? But I would still eat it like this. Yum. Look at how good that looks, you guys. So delicious. And you know what I love about this recipe as well is that it holds up nice at room temperature. So I just had a big launch party. I did a big book launch party for myself, and the truffles were on the menu and they were sitting out on the table for about 2 hours. And because they're enrobed in the chocolate, don't forget that the chocolate is protecting it, right? So it's going to keep for a while and it will stay at room temperature quite a long time. So if you're serving this at a party, if you're going to want to make these for a Christmas party or for your Christmas dinner, or they're also really great for a New Year's party, then don't be afraid of them sitting out for a while. They can sit out at room temperature for about a couple hours and they're going to be just fine. They're probably going to be really nice and creamy and soft on the inside, which is perfect though, because I love that contrast of texture. We're going to have the texture on the outside and then that nice creamy texture on the inside. So yeah, I mean, that was really simple. I hope that you all really enjoyed this recipe demo. Let me know if you have any questions. I don't see any questions here. Oh, am I missing some? Oh yeah, I'm definitely missing questions. Sorry guys. I didn't even see all of these questions come up at the bottom. I was like, wow, this group is really quiet. I'm not seeing any comments or anything. Hi, Allison. The chocolate doesn't have to be tempered. So Tamara's asking, should the chocolate be tempered? I'll tell you why I don't temper the chocolate. Because these truffles have to stay in the fridge anyways. So the reason why that we temper chocolate is so that it can stay at room temperature without having to put it in the fridge. So you're just kind of doing this extra step for no reason if you have to store them in the fridge anyways. So you don't have to temper it. I mean, I don't temper it. I only temper chocolate if it's chocolate that's going to be left out at room temperature that I'm not putting in the fridge. When will you be opening up an online shop? Oh, thank you. Oh, for the gloves, I'm just using... They're just latex-free gloves that I got on Amazon. I just make sure that they're latex-free. And let's see what else we have here. Oh, so someone's asking about cacao butter. That's all it's called, is cacao butter. So the cacao butter is derived from the cacao bean. So this is what you want to use in the chocolate. Oh, this is dairy-free. So someone's asking if it's dairy-free. We're just using coconut milk. All of my recipes are vegan, dairy-free. I don't use any dairy at all. You can use any nut milk you want. You can use almond milk. I'm just using coconut milk because usually I use tahini in this recipe, so I was keeping it nut-free, just as a good nut-free option, right? So someone's asking which brand of cacao butter. So I usually get all of my ingredients in bulk. I get them from Real Raw Food or Organic Matters because then you're going to save a lot of money. So I just make sure it's the Criollo variety, 100% Criollo, which is the best cacao bean that you can source chocolate from, apparently. So they say, right? They say it tastes the best and it's just the better quality one. Okay. Yeah, so someone's asking the recipe. So I pinned in the comments, the recipe is available in the very first link in my bio. So you can download the recipe there. And I'm just wondering if there are any, yeah, okay, that's it. That's it for questions, I think, for now. So I just want to see if I'm missing any, sorry. Let me just scroll back down to the bottom here. Okay, so I really hope that you enjoyed that, and I just want to let you all know that if you want to learn more Lovely Raw Desserts, we actually are running a huge promotion, the biggest sale of the year, 30% off all of my online courses. And this is until December 31st. I rarely run a promotion on my courses, but we had so much to celebrate this year with the cookbook. It's my birthday coming up, it's the holiday season, and I just really wanted to extend something to you such as this offer. So yeah, 30%, use the coupon code HOLIDAY30 at checkout. It's all on the sales pages you'll see there. And also too, another important reminder is that the Raw Dessert Chef Certification course, if you have been wanting to join, we are not accepting any new students as of January 1st. So enrollment for the program is going to close as of January 1st. Enrollment is just closing. The program is not closing. We're not accepting new students in the new year because we're going to focus on the students that we already have. There's a lot of students in this program. We want to see them graduated. We want to focus on coaching them and helping them get their certification. So we're going to focus on the students we have as well as the students that come in through this promotion until the end of the year. So if you've been wanting to get in the raw dessert course, then I would join that now until the 31st, and it's 30% off. So which is almost, it's like $290 something off, about $300 off, which is a really good deal. And then if you haven't already got my cookbook, The Art of Raw Desserts, then you can get that as well. So it is available. You can get it in almost every single country through Book Depository, and it's available on most countries' Amazon sites. Yeah, and just let me know if you have any questions. If you do try this recipe, please upload a photo in our Facebook group, Chefs of Crystal Dawn Culinary. You can also ask questions in there, or like I said, send me a DM and ask me a question if you're having trouble with the recipe. And I really hope that you enjoy it as much as I do. I absolutely love the truffle filling and the coatings. They're super fun for the holidays and going to be great for your parties and to serve at home or even as dessert for Christmas dinner. So thank you all so much for joining. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that. I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anything. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, sorry for my voice. I hope that you were able to understand me okay. Like I said, I have a bit of a cold, so my voice is going. So I hope that you could understand me okay. So thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you joining. So if I don't talk to you, have an amazing holiday season and Christmas. And I wish all you and your family the best. And I will talk to you later. So you all have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, so much. It was super fun. We'll have to do this again.